Hi everyone, and welcome again to this edition of Head On. Today we're going to actually head on into the woods. We're going to learn all about deer and cougars and bears, oh my, here on Vancouver Island. And joining me today to talk about these magnificent creatures, we have the magnificent Stuart Bates, Conservation Officer from the Ministry of the Environment here in BC. Welcome, Stuart.
Thank you.
So it's that time of year where bears are getting ready to hibernate. We've got cougars still out and about, in fact, all year round. And people are still running into deer in their backyards and in their cars. So let's talk about these magnificent animals and how we can all coexist better with them so we all have a better outcome. So you don't have to end up going out there and euthanizing them, which is always a great hue and cry that the public has. But I think there's a larger role that we can play in making sure that these animals stay safe and prevent encounters with them.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about bears first. Black bears, grizzly bears. Do we have grizzlies here on the island?
There's a few transient grizzly bears that have swum across to the northern end of Vancouver Island. In particular, there was two recently in Alert Bay that were relocated back to the mainland.
In Alert
But
Bay.
There's only usually a couple of grizzly bears here at any given time. The vast majority of them here are all black bears.
Mm-hmm. And black bears that live right here in our midst, right? In fact, I think today you were called out to Qualicum Beach for
yes.
bear call.
Black bears live throughout Vancouver Island. They even swim, sometimes we occasionally will swim over to Gabriel Island, some of the other Gulf Islands. We've had them in Victoria, Saanich, in Nanaimo, right throughout town. So Vancouver Island has a very healthy black bear population. So.
How do we judge a population? Is there a way that you can figure out exactly how many bears we do have here on the island?
Biologists will make population estimates based on available food resources and the interactions with bears. Current estimated population is 10 to 12,000 black bears.
Wow, on the island?
Just on Vancouver Island.
Wow, that's a lot of bears.
That's a lot of bears.
Yes, and it's surprising because the encounters with them aren't that frequent. But when we do encounter a bear, what are we supposed to do, Stuart?
Biggest thing is you're going to encounter bears all over the place. So it really depends on where you are. If it's a sudden close encounter.
Like out on a hike?
Yeah, you're out on a hike, you come around a corner, there's a bear standing there.
Yeah.
First thing you want to do is two things you want to remember. Don't ever scream and don't run. Bears are predators. If you do either one of those two things, you sound like a wounded deer, and if you're running from them, it can instill their predatory instinct. So don't scream, don't run. Make yourself look as big as possible. Open your coat, open an umbrella, hold a backpack over your head.
Yeah.
If you have a small child, pick them up.
Yeah.
Because you got bigger. Then say, hey bear, hey bear. By doing that and concentrating on doing that, you're not screaming.
Right.
So once you've done all that, so you slowly back away the way you came. And with bears, look at their feet, look at their bum, don't stare them in their eyes.
Okay.
That's an aggressive thing to them.
Right.
So and that should do. Other than that, you can use one of these items, bear spray, but you have to be within 3 meters to use this. It comes out in a fog.
Okay.
So you have to be really close.
Very close.
Yes, and you better pay attention to the wind direction, because if the wind is blowing at you, the only one getting sprayed is yourself.
Wow. Okay.
So another option is, again, to avoid that scream, just a handheld air horn. Right? You blow this, it's a loud, sudden noise, it'll startle the bear. And you don't got to worry about the wind direction so much.
Now, what about a whistle?
Whistles, a lot of people carry whistles. Whistles are for when you're lost and you're blowing the whistle so people can find you.
Right.
High-pitched whistles will also sound like a bird or a wounded animal, and you could simply attract the attention of a predator.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, we were always taught to carry a whistle.
There are some other whistles that come out at quite a deeper sound. I actually had a mushroom
different
picker
pitch.
show me the other day, and it was fantastic. So if you can find a whistle that's a lower pitch, good idea.
Now, Stuart, what can we do to dissuade bears from coming onto our property? What are we doing wrong that's, encouraging them to come into our, our backyards, our farms, that type of thing?
The biggest issue with bears is always food attractants. At this time of year, the bear, as you said, we're getting ready for hibernation. They're looking to eat up to 20,000 calories a day.
Wow.
So they will go for anything that has calories. They're even smart enough to know which has the most calories.
Really?
Right. So the big attractants for bears are always garbage.
Yes.
And those green compost bins are great.
Yes.
All you've done is sort the garbage for what the bear wants. So you still have to secure those as you would garbage in a shed or in a garage. The next big attractant this time of year are fruit trees, particularly apple trees. Once the fruit hits the ground, it starts to go rotten. The bears will smell it for miles, and they can actually eat enough rotten fruit to get drunk.
Wow.
So if that gives you an idea how much they'll eat.
Right.
So pick your fruit off the ground and get rid of it, and then pick the fruit off the tree as soon as it gets ripe.
Right.
After that, the next big attractant is actually birdseed, which most people don't know.
No,
Bears love birdseed and will do just about anything to get to it,
didn't know that.
right? So it's high protein, high calories, so they really want it.
Yeah.
So if we can control the attractants, even if initially the bear shows up and you call the conservation officers, they will usually tell you, look around your house, secure the attractants. The bear will come back 2 or 3 times. Once he realizes, or she, there's no food there, they'll leave. They're not going to hang out there if there's no food. They're going to move on.
They might come back 1 or 2 times.
The curiosity's
Yeah,
sake.
yeah.
But it doesn't mean, and I've had people do this, it doesn't mean once the bears stop coming, you can put it back out again.
Right.
Right? You must always secure
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And actually, under the BC Wildlife Act, it's an offense to leave an attractant out, and you can be ticketed
For
for
having out
simply
bird
leaving
feeders?
it out. Bird feeders, compost bins, garbage. So
Wow.
you must secure your attractants.
So, Stuart, if I saw a bear in my backyard,
Yes.
and do I call you right away? Do I
Yes.
call a conservation
The
officer?
Conservation Officer Service number, which
Yeah.
is the RAP line,
RAP
so it's
line?
1-877-952-7277. You must call it right away. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If it needs an immediate response, the CO will come out. If it doesn't, then we will come out and we'll call you back in the morning. But always call it. It's 24 hours a day.
Because you mentioned off air that it's beneficial if we call you right away because
Yes, lately we've had issues with people not wanting to call us
Right.
because they think all we're going to do is put the bear down.
exactly.
The sooner they call me, the sooner I can intercede and change the bear's behavior, or in most cases, change the people's behavior, right? So I'll simply provide advice to secure the attractants. If I happen to be there and the bear's not being a big problem, I do have non-lethal bullets I can shoot it with, the rubber bullets and beanbags and stuff to teach it to be afraid of people. But the sooner we can intercede with that bear, the sooner we can change the bear's behavior or the person's behavior.
Which prevents it from having to be euthanized in
Yes.
the end, because then it becomes habituated,
Yes.
which is a problem for the bear and a problem for the humans.
Correct.
So the sooner we call the CO, the conservation officer, the better.
The sooner you call me, the more options I have. The longer you wait, the less options I have.
That's really good to
Once
know.
a bear has become what we call food conditioned,
Food condition.
so he's eating non-natural food sources, human sources of food,
Yeah.
be it garbage, birdseed, etc. And it's become human habituated, so he's lost his fear of people. He's no longer afraid of people.
Yeah.
I have no options. I cannot move that bear. This is an island.
Right.
They will either come back or they will simply go to the next nearest community, which we've also had happen.
Right.
Right. So if it poses that much of a threat to people, I can't move it and relocate it somewhere else.
When you do have to relocate a bear, how far out do you take them? Like, are you taking them up, 20 miles
In a
out of
few
town?
circumstances, yeah. In a few circumstances where we do relocate bears, we don't relocate them far. We don't want to relocate them outside their traditional territory because we've had where they either get attacked by the resident bear there, right, or they starve to death, trying to work their way back. So it's usually what we call a short relocation. It's often bears that have gotten into fruit trees. They haven't done anything wrong. They're not being aggressive, but they're just stuck.
Yeah.
Because we've had them
Oh.
eat the fruit middle of the night, and they climb the tree, and other people show up, and I can't leave it to come down on its own for whatever reason.
Right.
So we will relocate them. But again, it's just outside of town. And we tell people we're simply buying the humans time to remove their attractants because the bear's coming back.
Again, it's the
Sometimes in
human factor.
days, sometimes it might be a week, but we've
Yeah.
had them come from Nanaimo, and 2 weeks later they made it back to Port Alberni.
Wow.
That's how fast they move if they want to.
Wow. And that's
So-
without hitchhiking.
Yeah, they don't get to hitchhike. So.
Now, Stuart, we have a few pictures of some bears that we're going to show our
Sure.
viewers, and we'll just speak to these. Again, these are black bears.
So that'll show you the power of a bear. That's actually a bear-proof garbage container that the
Bear-proof.
bear's flipped over on its back and just pulled the lid open,
Wow. This is fascinating.
which is why the bear-proof garbage containers are supposed to be bolted down. Apparently that one wasn't.
Okay.
And this will show you how much a bear likes birdseed.
Wow. Is that a full-grown bear?
That would probably be, judging from the picture, a young male, probably 2 or 3 years old.
That's amazing that he can get out on the line like that just for birdseed.
For birdseed.
That's incredible. Now, this is fascinating.
That's what happens if you leave a deep freeze outside.
Locked.
Locked. Because everybody thinks that it's frozen, the bear can't smell it.
Exactly.
But I don't know anybody that puts stuff in the deep freeze that doesn't sit it on the lid first.
And that small encounter on the lid.
Bear's sense of smell is 6 times better than a dog.
Wow. Did
So-
not know that. He's peeled that back just like
Oh, yeah.
a banana.
If a bear wants to get into your car, he could grab the door frame and fold your car door in half with very little effort. I had a bear cub that was 50 pounds that actually broke a car window.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So
And then, of course, we have the little bear trapped here.
this is, I believe, I remember that's an orphan bear from the north end of Vancouver Island. So it was taken to the North Island Wildlife Recovery Center
Oh, right.
and later released.
Right. Yeah. Very nice. So let's move on just a little bit and let's talk about cougars.
Sure.
And they're around year-round here. They don't hibernate.
No.
But
Well, to correct you, some bears on Vancouver Island never do hibernate.
is that because they've become...
Bears hibernate because of a lack of food, not a temperature. As long as they still have access to food, i.e. garbage,
Yes.
they will not hibernate.
So we're preventing hibernation process
No,
in
it's
some
just
cases.
it's one of those natural things. Sometimes it might be a salmon stream. It could be
Okay.
a multitude of things, but they're very good at math. And if you're a young bear,
Yeah.
And I tell you, the fatter you are in the spring, the more girlfriends you're going to get. As long as you're getting more calories than you're burning, why would you go to hibernate?
True.
Right,
Yeah,
so.
very true. Cougars. How many cougars do you think we have here on the island?
According to the biologists, the rough estimate is anywhere from 500 to 700. Again, they're very hard to count. They don't exactly hold still.
No.
So it's really, they're basing those on the amount of territory and the amount of food.
And I understand there's like resident cougars too. Like I understand there's like 2 that live here in Nanaimo and Lindley Valley.
Cougars set up territory, and that territory varies in size depending on the amount of prey species, and male or female. Females have smaller territories than males. So yes, there are. Our best recollection is there's probably a couple of cougars living in Lindley Valley. There's at least one female because every couple of years we get a couple of kittens coming out. Because they keep the kittens till they're 2. Right. So, and with the number of deer in Hammond Bay and Departure Bay, there's no shortage of food.
No shortage of food. They're such beautiful animals, but they're a little more elusive than bears.
Very.
Yes. Have you encountered many in your role as conservation officer?
As a conservation officer, I have. As a resident where I go hunting, fishing, hiking all over Vancouver Island, I've never seen one.
Really?
Never. I know they've seen me because I found their tracks.
Yes.
As a conservation officer, though, we're dealing with them on a regular basis. So,
Now, how big can these animals get? A full male cougar is
female
how big?
cougars rarely get over 100 pounds. The males, an adult male, 150, 160, in rare cases above that. And that's on Vancouver Island. In the interior, they get bigger.
So we have them in 2 places in BC then. The interior cougars, which are around the Kamloops area?
Oh, no, they're throughout.
Oh, okay.
Throughout BC.
But most cougars are located here on Vancouver Island, I think. The higher
Vancouver Island has a
population?
higher population density.
Gotcha.
Yes, on Vancouver Island. I believe the estimates are like 4,000 cougars
Wow.
in all of, right, in the whole territory. So with 25% of them being on Vancouver Island.
So Stuart, we know what to do now when we see a bear.
Yes.
What do we do when we see a cougar? If we encounter one in backyard or on a hike?
Okay, again, these are if it's a sudden close encounter. If you
Right.
see a bear or a cougar at a distance and it hasn't noticed you,
You're lucky.
leave.
How beautiful.
Right?
Yeah, but how nice to
Don't
see.
alert it to your presence, right? So if you have a close encounter with a cougar, the good news is it's almost exactly the same as a bear.
Okay.
Don't scream and don't run. Again, either one of those 2 things can cause that predatory instinct to kick in.
Because then they think you're prey.
Yes, if you scream, you sound like a wounded deer.
Yes.
Particularly, it's a high-pitched squeal from ladies and children.
Right.
Right, and some men. It will sound like a wounded deer or a rabbit. And if you run, it'll kick in that prey instinct. It'd be like rolling a ball in front of a cat. They can't not chase it. It's instinct.
Right.
Right. So don't scream, don't run. Make yourself look as big as possible. You want to be intimidating to this cougar. Right. Then say, hey cougar, hey cougar. Again, they don't understand English, but you're going to alert every other person in earshot that you have a problem.
Right. And are you shouting this out? Are you?
Yeah, in the deep voice if you can.
Yeah.
Right. Hey cougar, as loud as you can. Again, you're trying to alert all the other people in the area
Right.
that you have a problem.
Okay.
And then here, the only major.
So it's not so much for the cougar; it's to
Right.
alert.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and you're going to want to back up the way you came. And the only difference between a bear and a cougar is with a cougar, you want to stare at his eyes. Do not take your eyes off of his eyes. Cougars
Wow.
almost
You wanna
always
walk
attack
on?
from behind. He's literally waiting for you to turn your head.
Wow.
Right. So do not take your eyes off his eyes. You want to let him know, I see you, and if you attack me, you're going to get hurt.
Wow.
Right. Cougars they're not delicate. They're a very strong animal and very powerful, but they can't risk an injury. They're not like bears where they can go eat berries or other dead things or salmon, right? They only eat things they kill. Generally speaking, very rarely do they scavenge other meat.
So they're
if
very
they
vulnerable.
sprain a wrist or break a claw, they don't get to hunt till it heals.
Which makes them
Vulnerable.
vulnerable
and
to
skinny.
be prey themselves.
And they don't have huge amounts of fat reserves like bears do either.
Right. Right. So, how many cougar attacks have there been on Vancouver Island? And
Since 2000, there's been 17 people injured by cougars on Vancouver Island.
any of those 17 fatal?
No.
No.
There hasn't been a fatal attack on Vancouver Island since the 1990s.
And
in 117 years, we've only had 8 fatalities in the entire province.
117 years, 8 fatalities by cougars.
Yes.
And I understand, just to compare that a bit, with bee stings, 3 people die a year here in Canada with bee stings.
I'm not allergic
something
to
like
bees,
that.
I don't know. But yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, we seem to be very afraid of cougar attacks, but it's a very rare event.
Yeah.
And they try to avoid us more than we try to avoid them, I'm sure.
Yes, and because of the population increase of cougars on Vancouver Island, right? A large percentage of the attacks do happen on Vancouver Island. So I think of those 8 fatalities in the province, 5 of them are on Vancouver Island.
Now, Stuart, I understand cougar attacks are more common with children, like people under 16.
They
Is that-
are. Children represent about 40% of the actual attacks, which obviously, when you compare the percentage of the population they present, that's an unusual amount.
Right.
Again, because they're not wanting to risk injury, a cougar would always attack the easier prey first.
Ah, okay.
So for comparison, if it were you or I and the cougar had to choose, he's probably not going to pick me.
Yeah. Well, I'll stick close to you. I only have to outrun.
Well, the other thing is
Outrun you,
these kids
not the
have
cougar.
that high-pitched squeal,
Yes.
right? And
yeah.
they run around in erratic movements. To a predator, that's an injured animal.
Right, exactly.
Right.
So, what kind of precautions can we take then with cougars around our property?
Around property, cougars, contrary to popular belief, do not climb trees and jump out of trees on deer or people. Cougars are ambush predators. They attack from the ground. All the pictures you see of cougars are in trees because the only way to find them is to chase them with dogs. And like all wildlife view dogs as wolves. And the way to get away from a wolf if you're a bear or a cougar is to climb a tree. So remove the low brush from your yard, right? So there's none on the inside. So you can't have a cougar in your yard without you seeing it.
Okay.
Right? If I were to stand in the middle of a soccer field and the cougar jumps the fence, I know he's going to catch me before I get to the house. He doesn't.
Yes.
Right? He's thinking he has to be within a few meters to catch that deer. So if you can keep it fairly open so you can see. And then the biggest thing to avoid tracking a cougar to your yard, don't feed deer and don't feed raccoons. Right? If you attract prey to your yard, the predators will follow.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, anything else with children that we need to know? Like around school bus stops or things like that. Like obviously
Again, keep the brush clear.
Keep the brush
right?
clear.
So you can't have something there that you don't know about, right? Particularly predators.
Yeah.
So yeah, I always tell people, don't be fearful, right? Be vigilant. Be aware of the fact that there's bears and cougars here. I saw almost a humorous Facebook post where somebody had a sign that said, "Welcome to Vancouver Island. This is cougar and bear country. If you're unhappy with that, a ferry will be leaving shortly." And that's the best advice I can give.
I like that.
They're here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Again, your chances of getting attacked are very, very, very low. Vancouver Island has the highest population density of cougars anywhere.
Anywhere in the world?
Anywhere in the world. And I believe 40% of the cougar attacks in North America have occurred in Vancouver Island. It still averages less than 1 per year.
Yeah.
And that's the most common place for it to happen. So you have much bigger issues to worry about.
Absolutely. Now, I think we've got a couple of really good pictures of cougars that you've provided
Okay.
for us as well. We'll take a look at these. And I understand that like a cougar can take down a moose,
Cougar can take down, yeah, oh, an
a
elk.
600-pound elk? Or,
Yeah, oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's the picture up there, but yeah.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a cougar a few years ago was in extension, actually killed a deer in someone's yard.
In someone's backyard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was just hanging out in cedar in someone's yard.
Now, is he looking to spring, or is he?
No, he's looking at the lady taking the picture who's probably about 150 feet away in her house. That's how good their eyesight is. So,
Wow. So bears have a really keen sense of smell.
yes,
Cougars as well?
yes. Their smell is good, not as good as a bear's. And contrary to popular belief, bears, they hypothesize, obviously because they can't tell, see as well as humans do. But unlike people, they trust their noses more. And that's why you will run into a bear, you'll think he has to see me. Oh, he's not afraid of me because he's simply circling.
Right.
He's often circling to get downwind of you. And as soon as he smells you, they run. Right? I've had bears do it to me lots. So yes, they simply trust their nose more than they trust their eyes. And whereas humans are the other way around.
Right.
Right? If we smell something bad, we go look for it.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, cougars with their eyesight, I didn't realize that they had incredible
Very sharp
visual
eyesight. They generally
acuity.
hunt at night.
Okay, yeah. What are they hunting for? What's the common prey
Raccoons and deer. Those are their main 2 prey species.
And like hobby farms, that type of thing, would they be hanging around there?
If there's deer there, and that's why we tell people, secure your sheep and goats and stuff at night.
Yeah.
Cougars will prey on them should they happen to come across them.
So their first choice would be deer. Yeah.
Always deer.
Yeah.
So on average, they kill about a deer a week.
Wow. So they can live on that for 1 week? Like
A deer?
Yeah.
Depending on the size of the deer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wow. So, Stuart, if I'm driving down the road and I hit a deer,
Yes.
who do I call? If I see a dead deer on the road, who do I call?
If it's a dead deer,
Yeah.
right, call the local highways or the local city guys. They come around and pick those up. I don't go around and pick those up, or that's all I do. If you hit a deer and it's still alive, right, you can call 911, right, and the police will come and deal with it. Or if I'm available, I'll come and deal with it. And again, you can call the RAP number that I gave earlier.
The RAP number as
yes,
well.
Yes,
Yep.
we come and deal with that way, which we may then have a police officer if he's closer, right? We don't want the animal to suffer. Whoever can get there quickest will come and deal with the deer. If it's simply broke a leg and it's run away,
Yeah.
it'll probably be fine. There's all kinds of deer in Nanaimo walking around with 3 legs. We had one that broke one of her rear legs from getting hit by a car. We kept track of her. We know for a fact she had 3 sets of twins after that, so apparently it didn't bother her a whole lot.
Wow. So if I see a lame deer in my backyard, chances are she's probably going to be
If it's
just
mobile
fine.
and feeding, it'll
Yeah.
probably be fine.
Oh,
If they
okay.
start to get emaciated, so they start to look like their back end starts to look like a dairy cow, or they're real skinny, you can start to see their ribs, give us a call.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what's been one of your most memorable personal encounters as a conservation officer? What's one of the more interesting calls you've been on this year?
More interesting calls this year?
Yeah.
Oh, you catch me. I don't know about this year. I know I had one call to deal with bears in particular, where the person had a bear breaking into their garbage. We came out, we trapped the bear and removed the bear and euthanized it. And 2 weeks later, the same person called me, said there's another bear in my garbage and wanted to know when the bears were going to learn.
Oh no.
So,
Really?
yes.
That's
one of those frustrating calls.
Yes.
So,
yes.
which is why they changed the Wildlife Act that now we can start issuing those people tickets.
So what is the fine for that?
$230.
And second offense, they put you in a
Second
bear
offense.
cage,
Yeah,
take
second
you away.
offense, we can go higher. We can go to court and let the judge decide what the fine's going to be. But if it's an attractant that I order you to remove and
Yeah.
you fail to remove it, it's a $575 fine.
Do you ever put them in the back of the bear trap and take them out of town?
No, there's rules against that.
Oh, okay.
Not allowed.
I'd have to really call the rap line if that happened to my
Yeah,
neighbor.
then somebody else be calling 911. Yeah.
Exactly. So we talked about how to prevent encounters, what to do if you do encounter a cougar or a bear in the woods. In your role as conservation officer, have you ever been blindsided by a cougar or a bear, and just how close have you actually been yourself?
Oh, close. I had one in Ladysmith that actually I got, ostracized by some of the members of the public for putting a cougar down. It had showed up in someone's yard in a townhouse complex full of children, broad daylight,
Wow.
about 6 in the evening in late summer. When I showed up, it was still there. I didn't know that at the time, so when I went looking just to make sure it had left, I walked up to it and it was laying there looking at me from 20 feet.
Wow.
Right. So, and then after several minutes of me talking to my partners, letting them know where it was, about 2 or 3 minutes, it simply turned, faced me, crouched down, and pinned his ears back. And a cougar can leap 30 feet in one bound, so I wasn't about to
Really?
let him do that at 20.
Really?
So unfortunately, I did have to put it down, which I hate doing because they are
Yeah.
very pretty.
They are, yeah.
Oh, they're
I've never-
beautiful
I've
animals.
never seen one close up, but
No,
just,
they are very, very beautiful
magnificent
animals.
animals, yes.
It's horrible to have to put them down.
I bet it is. That must break your heart.
It does.
Now, how, like a male cougar, from tip of the nose to the tip of the tail, how long are they?
They can be 6 feet plus the tail.
6
so
feet
you can be
plus
going
the
like
tail.
9 feet.
Wow.
Yeah, their tails are very long.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm sure the tail is used to help them spring. If they can go 30 feet in one
No,
leap.
they use it as like a counterbalance when they're running.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Okay.
So when they turn in corners, they use the tail as a counterbalance.
Yeah. Wow. Beautiful. And no grizzly encounters yourself?
Not here, but I have had them in other places.
Have you?
Yes, yes. I actually had one walk within 5 meters of me.
Wow.
Yes. And I said, "Hey, bear," and he turned and went the other way, which is
Wow.
90% of the time what they'll do.
That's- Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Beautiful. That must have been quite something to see a
It
bear
was,
that
it
close
was,
up.
it was an interesting moment. We'll just say that.
Well, you're very lucky, A, to have seen one that close,
Yes.
because they're magnificent animals.
Yes.
And then B, to just had a hay bear, and that's
Well, I was
it.
actually there because of a different grizzly bear. Not that one had actually attacked somebody.
Oh, okay. Different.
So it was a serious,
What kind of attractant were you?
intensive moment, shall we say?
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So, as a conservation officer, do you carry these types of things with you? Do you carry the bear spray? No.
No.
What do you carry? Obviously, some kind of a weapon, tranquilizers, and
Yes.
other.
We have a variety of
Yeah.
firearms.
Yeah.
And a lot of knowledge. Most often with bears, I can simply act aggressive to them and intimidate them. Bears, I guess bears react to people like they would to another bear. So if you understand what the bear is doing, you can sort of work that to your advantage. And obviously I'm a pretty big guy, so I can act as a bigger bear and intimidate him.
Yes.
Right. So a lot of people hear bears huffing and puffing and clacking their teeth. That's not an aggressive behavior from the bear. That's actually his way of saying, "Hey, you're in my space, back off." Right. Or a bear standing up on the back legs. Right. You always see that in the movies where the bear stands up and roars. A bear standing up on his back legs is simply no different than us tippy-toeing. He's trying to get a better look or a better smell. Right. Because that's not an aggressive move. That's the most vulnerable position he could put himself in, right?
Yeah.
So they stand up, and as long as you understand what the bear's doing, you can usually talk them out of it. And the bears on Vancouver Island, unlike cougars, right, are less likely to attack than pretty much anywhere else. There's simply that much food.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So they don't even fight with each other much. So why are they going to bother with a person?
Right. Exactly.
So.
Yeah. Well, Stuart, this has been very interesting. How many years have you been a conservation officer?
10 years.
10 years, yeah. Here on the island?
No, I started out in Dease Lake.
Oh, very good.
Most of it's been on Vancouver Island, but yeah.
Very good. Well, it was a pleasure to have you here and to share your insights into how we can live better with these magnificent animals here on the island. And I hate to say it, but I hope I never have to call you. But if I do,
call me early.
But I'll call.
Don't wait till it's too late.
Exactly. If I do, I will call you early. First encounter that I have with any of these beautiful animals, give Stuart a call. So thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. You're very welcome. So thank you for joining us today as well. And if you have any suggestions for topics you'd like to see on our show, contact Melissa Hall, our producer, and her email will be at the bottom of the screen. So on behalf of the crew here at Shaw, thanks for watching Head On, and we'll see you next time.